Welcome to Harry's Hook. I am a journalist, big fan of boxing. I've written published articles on it. I also train and spar. Most of you are not seeing the whole picture on Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. A lot of the public is freaking out, and they shouldn't be. Sure, Paul versus Tyson, that fight was a disgrace, a debacle, and I will talk about it. But for those who claim that the event was a disaster, they're wrong. It was a mixed bag with some very high points and silver linings, as well as drawbacks and missteps. But at the end of the day, we should be relieved and maybe even glad with how it all turned out, and that includes the main event. So, in this video, I'm going to go through the positives, the negatives, and I'm going to give you the final verdict. Let's get into it. The main card kicked off with an expendable, moronic, stupid fight between Neeraj Goyat and influencer Whindersson Nunes. If MVP insisted on actually having this fight, put it on the preliminary card, not the main one, because it stunk, and we knew it would stink. Whatever, moving on to a far more positive note. Barrios then put his WBC welterweight title on the line against Abel Ramos. It was an excellent battle that saw both boxers hit the canvas after getting clocked with right hands. The underdog Ramos ultimately fought to a split draw, and it felt justified. Then we get to the ultimate highlight of the evening, the fight that should have been the main event, Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano 2. In 2021, Taylor versus Serrano was the first women's boxing match to headline Madison Square Garden, and their battle was an instant classic. A highly skillful, competitive, action-packed bout with swings of momentum that ended in a split decision for Taylor. The rematch somehow lived up to, and maybe even exceeded, the crazy hype. Besides the elite skills, relentless pace, and unwavering grit, there was serious drama. Serrano suffered a cut caused by a Taylor headbutt that grew into a gruesome gash. Serrano wouldn't back down, and they fought it out till the final bell. Katie Taylor was awarded a narrow unanimous decision, despite Serrano having the edge in CompuBox numbers and a point deduction from Taylor for headbutting. Some will grumble about the decision, which I understand. But Netflix says that 50 million households tuned into the co-main and got to witness an extraordinary women's boxing match. Taylor versus Serrano entered the pantheon of all-time great boxing rivalry wars, reminiscent of Gotti Ward. And when that happens, when you reach that level, at least to the boxing public, whoever got the decision, it's not quite as relevant. On balance, I think that's a win. And now we arrive at Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, the low point of the evening, but one with a major silver lining and a huge bullet we all dodged. Tyson came out aggressive in the first round, but pretty soon we saw he didn't have the bounce or balance he needed in his legs to close the distance. He lacked stamina and punch resistance, as many of us suspected he would. He looked like a 58-year-old man who really never should have been in there taking blows from a much younger, active fighter who may not be a top-level boxer, but he knows his way around the ring and carries some punch. Mike also had serious health issues, ulcer flare-ups leading into the fight. It showed the triumph of marketing, the delusional Kool-Aid so many people drank, and the power of Mike Tyson's name. It looked like Jake saw what we all saw, and that he didn't shift into high gear to go for the knockout, which was wise on his part. There's a certain line that you don't cross. Not making the fight would have been a good place to start. But if Jake had actually pushed for the knockout, he would have gone from an annoying prick to a true villain. Look, Mike saw the final bell. He wasn't knocked out, dropped, or badly embarrassed. He did look old in there, which provides the silver lining of hopefully dissuading other ancient boxers and combat athletes from following in his footsteps. Still, some others may try, but if he had performed better than he did, I think many more would say, well, look, he did it, so can I. And consider the alternative. I don't think it's hyperbolic at all to suggest that that night could have ended with Mike Tyson being carried out of the arena on a stretcher. And that very well could have triggered a violent outbreak in the crowd and the Netflix stream cutting to Instead, Mike got to walk away with $20 million more in his bank account. Let's just hope that he retires now, but if he has to fight again, that it's against other geriatrics like Roy Jones back in 2020, but I just hope that he hangs it up. Ultimately, Abel Ramos gave Mario Barrios a serious run for his money, and both were dropped in an excellent title bout. Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano delivered another instant classic and showed out for women's boxing to a huge audience. Yes, there were buffering issues on the stream, but at least we weren't shelling out pay-per-view money. It was just Netflix. They can work on the buffering. And yeah, the Paul vs. Tyson main event was a shame and a sham, but it could have been so much worse. At the end of the day, I see that event as a net positive. So take a minute, exhale, and breathe a sigh of relief. And that right there is Harry's Hook. Let me know what you think in the comments, and big thank you to those who hopped on the live stream with me. More coming next month.